right. Call on Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rekak Wadash. First and foremost, I'm going to say all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rekak Wadash. Giving all praise to the Most High, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the God of Gods. There is no other God besides him. Much love to his only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai. The Adonai, the Hamashiach, the light of this world, the one who died and covered the blood of the chosen Israelites, covered them with his blood so we can be welcomed into the new covenant and be forgiven. And that shit is loud as fuck. And whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ and calls them all these other names that have no power. Much love to the beautiful chosen children among Israel. Shout out to the prophets, which are the Akim, the brothers that's in the word, and they do everything in their power to show Yahweh Hashem Yahushua that they love him and they fear him. Much love to the beautiful Akwaf, the beautiful sisters that's in the word. And whether you got a man or not, you still fear the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh. You listen and you learn in silence, coming back at you with another episode through the power and spirit of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. In today's episode, I'm going to try my best to explain it, and it is heaven and hell on earth, because we got, just many differences and many variations, but the two variations that we dealing with, as long as we on the ground, is heaven and richness and rulership, and then we live in, and those of us that stuck in hell, which is poverty and slavery. Them the main ones, and as far as I'm concerned, I can't wait until all this is over, because it really sucks right now. We kind of like down. The Israelites is kind of down. We stuck in that low state for a short time. We know the time is almost up. We know they're getting their preparations for the the next 4 years. And in the next 4 years, following the 2030, all this should be nearly over with. The dollar should be done away with. The digital ID should be here by now. I mean, by that time, like mandatory. They should have it in place, because it's in a couple of other states. I think it's in like Singapore. I think it's in Australia, Germany. I think if I got Australia wrong, I got Australia wrong from what I heard. But I think Singapore and Germany, and there's other places where the digital ID is present. But it hasn't made its way to the U.S. We know that it exists. It's on the earth. It's in effect. I think China is doing something close to that. I don't think they got the digital ID totally in place. No, I think they do. They do have the digital ID in place, and they're not using money like they used to. So it's on its way, but it's not here. So that's exactly what the everybody that believe in Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, that's exactly what we waiting on. We waiting on that last piece to the puzzle is the digital ID. The grain of rice. So, that's what we're looking for, and all of this can come to a close, and we can get closer to coming back into that heavenly rulership, and getting out of this poverty. We know that the enemy is about to fall when the digital ID comes in. So, but we can get some of them cases of poverty right now, and I could look it up on my tablet, because I don't know, it just... I don't know, it just came to my mind, I'm just, you get tired. Like, the more you go through this life and the more you happen to wake up like this in this condition, it's horrible. Like, from the stories of how the Israelites would live with Yahweh Hashem Yahushua till how the Israelites live now, and Yahweh Hashem Yahushua had to punish us, and how we got to wake up like this, and in your past life, some distant past life ago, you just had millions. You was in rulership, you had everything, and it wasn't nothing to worry about. Now, in this life, when you wake up, you're waking up in filth, you're waking up in sadness and darkness and gloom, you're waking up in desperation, You're not knowing where you're going. You know, you can't trust anything. Everything that is fear in all different kind of places. You can't even sleep right. No, you can't even sleep right. It's always a struggle. It's always a constant battle. It's always some sort of gateway you got to cross through. Some sort of some demonic monster guarding the gateway, guarding everything, stopping you from having access to these things. You know, from access to what's truly yours. You know, everything is all cut off, and you know, you wake up, you see your people in desolation. Every day you living in desolation, destruction. Everybody is there's no order, there's no control. You know, there's a lot of stuff that I see on a day-to-day basis. You know, from misguided men to corrupted females. You know, you get tired of seeing all of this, man. Like, it's just like, damn, man. Like, I know that things are coming to a close, you know, but I'm just wishing that it was already over, because it is ridiculous. Like, the pressure, and it keep getting darker and darker. You know, it's just, this is what Yahweh Shem Yahushua was talking about when he told you that these are the curses that's going to be set on us if we go against them. So let me see if I can find that. And to keep watching these criminals and these things, you know, that's in power, and they do whatever they want, and they over here terrorizing and oppressing and attacking us. And you know, it's crazy. Like I keep saying, criminals make the rules. These people are criminals, man. These people are criminals, and they make the rules. Like, I'm so irritated. I'm so tired of watching the enemy and these criminals run stuff, run everything. It's just, I'm tired, bro. I'm ready for this. I'm ready for this thing to be thrown out of power. I'm ready for this world to end. And I want that liberation. I want that freedom even more. I don't care if I ain't got no food, no water. I barely got clothes on my back. I don't care. As long as I got my liberation, my freedom, I can be with Yahweh Shem Yahushai, and I'm clean. That's all that matters. So I'm tired of all of this. I'm ready to go back to rulership. This is not right, man. Seeing all of this chaos and seeing all this stuff happen and wake up. I'm suffering from my own mistakes. Like, I can't get out of this hole. There ain't no access. There ain't no loophole. There's no escape from all of this. And it's okay, because I'm paying for my sins, but you get that understanding of how bad it is without Yahweh Shem Yahushua, without his protection, without his act, without him giving access to these things, without your power, without being connected to him. I wish, that a lot of this stuff, we never did none of this stuff to make him so angry, because that's really what it is, That's really what it is. It says Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 45 through 68. And it says, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee and pursue thee and overtake thee till you be destroyed. It says, because thou hearkenest not the voice of Yahweh Shem Yahushai to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. It says, and they shall be upon thee for a sign and a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. It says, because you, talking to Israel, it says, not serve Yahweh with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things. So we had the riches, we had the palaces, we had the countries, we had the slaves, we had it all, man. We had everything, and it was like one of the most stupidest things you can do was give that away, to come down to your estate and to compare yourself to people that's not even considered above animal status. Like, and then we come down and then we want to be with them. We want to be just like them, you know, and we abandon Yahweh and take upon lowly ways. So now, since that we wanted to dwell with these people, and these people in a lowly state, we gotta live like that. And they no longer they whole strive, you know, the enemy whole strive, and the enemy's whole gain, the whole desire was to gain our state. That's what they wanted. So that, you know, it's a switcheroo in the story, you know, and Yahweh Shem Shai is showing us, you know, this is what your enemy wanted all along. He wanted to be you. He never wanted to just stay in that estate, stay in that lowly estate. He wanted the power. Even in the stories when we gave them some sort of power and some sort of authority, we're not understanding the greed. We're not understanding their desire of how they wanted all. They wanted everything. They wanted what we had, you know, and they got a chance to take that. Yahweh gave them a chance to have that, and we gave it up the moment we started worshiping their idols. We started mingling with them. You know, the moment we came down from our estate, our position, and came to dwell and came to help these people, you know, and these people, little do you know, these people the whole time, they wanted our spot, and now they have our spot. But at the same time, look, you know, like Yahweh say, come outside and look around you. Like he talking to the average Israelite that's like poor, you know, and don't have nothing. You come outside and you look around you and you see what the enemy done. He don't even know how to run the kingdom correctly, and all of this stuff is all corrupted. It's darkness everywhere. Whether it's like daytime or nighttime, it's everywhere. You know, your people is destroyed all the way from, like I said, from lost men, corrupted women, you know, gangbangers, drug addicts, prostitution. They killing each other, they murdering each other, like all this darkness and the destruction, you know, and all this is a result of us coming down from our estate. Like we should have stayed where we was at. We should have stayed in heaven. We should have stayed in power and rulership, and we should have kept these people in oppression forever, like Yahweh wanted us to. But if you know the light, you gotta know darkness. So, you know, it was only fair game. You know, we had to know we had to experience what it was like to be poor. We had to experience what it was like to be in destitution. We had to be punished for the things that we've done. We had to be cast into slavery for the laws that we broke and for all those charges against us. We were found guilty in the eyes of Yahweh, you know, and we had to moreoverly experience the darkness. We had to experience it and at an extreme level. You know, it's not that simple being on the road to, because we about to be back into godhood, and we about to take our estates as being lower gods permanently. You know, so Yahweh Shem Shai had to get his point across. This is what this darkness is like. This is what this poverty is like. You know, this is what this destruction is like. This is how it feels. Do you learn something? Do you have an understanding? You know, do you see what's going on with your people? And these, like, our people is called the angels in the Bible, the lower angels in the Bible. This is what, you know, this is what's happening to us. And the Lord is getting his point across of never to come down to us this estate again. Never go back. This is all the more reason why we should stay with Yahweh Shem Shai. We protect it. You know, we watched over, and we stay in heaven, and we don't come down to this estate ever again. So when the world is reborn, we are corrected. Everything is coming back into perfection. We know not to feel sorry for those that are oppressed, for all the bad and all the wrong that they've done. We know to never let up, you know, to go hard and to keep these people in the position, in that lowly state that they belong in, keep everything in an order. And we know, you know, just to keep the world. Don't give the world up. Keep it. It's yours, you know. So we could read, and like I said, abundance of all things. We had everything, man. And the more and more I wake up every day, and I gotta wake up to this disgusting world. I gotta wake up to all this. I gotta wake up to working jobs. I gotta wake up to this poverty. You know, let alone my past and all of my confusion and me being lost in destruction and just losing faith from time to time, and just happen to go through so many extreme changes. When you in heaven, that all them changes is complete. You no longer have to deal with any challenges, any obstacles. You don't have to deal with none of that shit. And it's just like, man, like, how you doing? You're an Israelite according to the Bible?
Yeah, what's up?
I just wanted to tell you that. That's a blessing for you, man. You have a good day, man. Stuff like that's what I'm talking about. It hurt, man. No, you just gotta sit back and think about it. Just really look at it. Like, look at yourself. Look at the world. Like, man, this is not it, man. It's horrible. If Yahweh put me back in rulership, I would never leave his side again. I will always stay by Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. Make me think that why would our people do something like that? Why would we have to go through something like that? And it hurt, but at the end of the day, it's okay, because we coming back to that. How you doing? You know the Bible? Okay, have a good day. I don't know. I'm just tired, and it's hard, being out here. It's hard. I gotta keep my composure. I gotta stay strong. I feel lonely. Like, I know I got Yahweh Hashem Yahushua by me, but that fleshly side, when you feel lonely. Like, I got family, I got people out there, and they not around. And they're gone. I don't need them, but part of me feels like being in this world make me feel like I need them. Maybe that's how the angels feel. Like, they ain't got to go through all of this. I like the world, though. I ain't gonna lie. I like being in the flesh. It's weird. I don't know. I just wanted to describe this. I like being in the flesh. I like to experience. But it's not. I like to experience. The love. Part of me likes to experience adventure, struggle, peril, but there's another part of me that don't like this at all. Like it's the way that this is going. It's how am I experiencing it? It's the pressure, it's the extremity. It's the hardness, it's the force that's just pushing you down until you like flat to the ground, and it's keeping you like that. And just when you think that you being on the ground couldn't be any worse, you getting pushed deeper and deeper. Like it really it doesn't stop, and you got to be steadfast and you got to be strong to overcome. And it takes a while to overcome, and like I said, part of me love being in the flesh. I like to be in the flesh, But like I said, maybe that's why, the archangels and all the angels, they stay where they at. Because they don't have to experience all of this. And and in heaven, you don't have all these feelings. You don't have to go through all this pain. You don't have to go through all this. And I'm talking about not in heaven on earth. I'm talking about heaven, literal heaven. You don't have to experience all this pain and all this suffering and all this sadness and all this darkness. You don't have to feel jealous. You don't have to feel evil. You don't have to feel pain. You don't have to feel stress. You don't feel nothing. All you feel is just splendor, goodness, you don't have those desires. You don't have those desires that you once had when you was on the ground, Up there, you don't have those. You're so close to Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, to where you don't have to experience all that. It just feels better, How you doing? You believe in the Bible? Have a good day then. All right to you. But yeah, man, it just feels better, Like that's like that. It's like the feeling of dying. You feel that great pain, and when you cross over, all that pain and all of that struggle, all that sadness, all those emotions is gone because you leave your flesh behind, and your flesh contain all of that, and all of that is left behind. You don't feel that no more. You know, that's why they talk about death the way they do. Like, don't fear death. Yeah, it sucks. It can be painful in certain instances. It can be painful, but you know, all 9 times out of 10, when you cross over, it's just for a brief moment. It can be for a brief moment. let me not lie. It can be for a brief moment, but you know, at the end of the day, you know, when you go to heaven, all of that is gone. You don't have to feel like that no more. That's why they call it Abraham's bosom. You know, it's just, you know, the beauty and the love of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua is so close up there, you know. Feel good. It feel good. But let me continue. So we had everything. It says, therefore thou shalt serve thine enemies which Yahweh shall send against thee in anger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he has destroyed you. So we went through that too. You know, we went through that too. We've been destroyed. We've been oppressed. To this day, we still in slavery. Whether it's in jail, incarceration, or it's out here. It's out here, you know, we still in slavery. You know, I see people that done gave up on the system, the homeless, they even still got a job to do. They gotta still keep themselves fed. You know, they still gotta, even, like I say, even begging is a job. Even begging is a job. You know, it's tax-free. You know, even begging is a job, bro. Even the homeless can't truly get away from the system. Our people, you know, we stuck here until it is time for the system to be destroyed. Now, when the time for the system to be destroyed is when the digital ID come in, and that is when the gates of liberation are open, and we'll be out of here. For those of them that know the game, those of them that know the truth, we out of here. You know. We don't have to participate a part of this no more. We don't have to be a part of this no more. That is the true freedom, you know? So it's like we wait until those times, and it's getting closer. It is getting closer because that's what Project 2030 is for. Not no Project 2025 and none of this, all this crap. No, all this is just to build up to that digital ID being set in, and for our enemy, you know, the white man, to have enough strength to transition, you know? And it's taking a while because it's something that they want to do, but they're afraid to do because they know the prophecy. You know, as soon as they do that, Yahweh is going to come to destroy them, because they trying to come to that they trying to come to that estate, you know, to that heavenly estate, and they trying to consider themselves as Yahweh Shemel Shai, but they just a man. So it's real. It's some real disrespectful stuff that they trying to do, and they want to make their estate permanent. They trying some way, even though it's impossible. They trying to, in their mind, they want to keep our estate. They want to keep the birthright. They want to keep the world. They want to stay like this forever. But thank goodness Yahweh Shem Yahushai and Nim Yahushai. The prophecy is already written, and He's gonna get rid of them. You know, so. And we getting closer and closer to that deadline. Now, I'm not saying 2030 is the year. You know, I don't know that. You know, no man know the time or day when all this stuff going down. But 2030 is a part of measuring the times diligently. So we know around that time and afterwards, the digital ID should pop up, and the economic crash should be completed. You know, so that's what we waiting on. You know, because their rulership is shaking. You know, they done lived in abundance for a long time. They done lived deliciously for a long time. They done did whatever they wanted without any consequence for a long time. You know, they might not know divine consequence, not yet. You know, they might have got here and there due to, you know, however Yahweh Shem Yahushai feel. You know, some of them get back before time, but you know, for them as a collective, as a whole, on a divine level, and being judged, you know, it's not time yet. That's why they keep getting away with a lot of this stuff. And you keep seeing a lot of our people going through all this type of suffering and them just tormenting. At this point, it's just torment. They're just tormenting them because it's something to do. It's some sort of entertainment. You know, that's why you see a lot of our people trying to join their side, and they still being tormented, that they still being tortured and ridiculed because of the hatred that these people have for us. because they know exactly who we are. So it says, we can, and this is what Yahweh is talking about. It says, Yahweh shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, and swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. Because they were speaking English, and we was speaking Hebrew, so we didn't understand them at all. It says, a nation of a fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. They didn't care about it. So, stories like children being fed to alligators, stories like, children being hanged, men are people being burnt alive, are people being cooked. It was a lot of darkness that was going on. And you got to understand, that the simple concept of a person doing anything they want to you, and there is no law, there is nobody to stop them. They are the law, or they are the opposing power, and they can do anything that they want to you. Torture you, kill you, rape you, and there's nobody that's going to come save you. There's nobody that's going to stop it. And you can only imagine in they beastly minds how far they took it. So, I've been hearing books like Black AF America, or Delectable Negro, or 100 Years of Lynching. These books are proofs and relics. What in the world? That nigga high as hell. These books are proofs and relics of our dark past, of just how bad our of our captivity and our slavery was, man. Just how dark it was. And the more and more we progress into the future, the more and more all of this information is coming out, and it's coming out like water. It's coming out like water, man. Like that's how hard it's coming out. You got to understand technology. You got to understand technology. You got to understand, how fast technology is advancing, and how much information is coming out, and how many people in the world with so much information. And especially with all, subjects like slavery, subjects like how we fell out of power, how we fell out of rules, subjects like the Bible. All of that is coming out so fast. And it's just so much information. You can only grab on so much. But the further and further we get into the future, the more and more evidence is coming out. And that's exactly why they trying to hide that. They trying to hide their shame, but Yahweh Hashem outside said, I'm going to uncover your shame. So there's nothing that they can do to stop the shame from being exposed on a world stage. And the more and more information come out, the more and more the nations and the people hate them. Even though right now, the white man is in power in damn near all nations. All these nations, these white men is in power, all of them. And if he's not in power, he got people that's allegiance to him. And they all in power at the end of the day. He all around the world right now. And all the people is starting to moan and groan and hate these people. And the more and more they want them gone. They want them gone, bro. And and more people are starting to see that they are, monstrosities. And this is the truth of how it all is, and like I said, the power of the internet is exposing a lot of history, a lot of real history, so, and people is working around the clock, whether you realize it or not, to uncover it. They digging deep into slavery, deep into these nations, deep into these, wicked holidays and all of that, real deep, and they uncovering a lot of these lies, they covering a lot of these truths, and it's a good thing, It's a good thing. So it says, and he shall besiege thee in all thy gates until thy high and fenced walls come down. That's the 70 AD, wherein thou trustedest throughout all thy land, and he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, all thy land. So that reminded me of 70 AD and then the invasion of Spain. So it says, which Yahweh thy God has given thee in the siege and in the straightness wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee. So when you read this, I always remember that the Bible is connected to history. So when you read about the slaveries, you read about the captivities, you read about the wars, you read about how the white men came and ravaged and took over everything, through the power of the gun. You realize how he came over and the Hamites and the children of Africa sold off the children of Israel to the enemy. You read about all that, and it's all connected in the Bible. So some of these precepts, it could be the past or the future. It all determines on how you interpret it and the history that you read it. But it's easy. You could just go to slave trade and it's talking about that. It's easy. So it says, and besiege thee in all thy gates throughout all thy land which Yahweh have given you. It says, and thou shalt eat the fruit of thine own body, the flesh of thy sons and of thy daughters, which Yahweh have given thee, in the siege and in the straightness wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee. It says, so that no man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eyes shall be evil towards his brother, and towards the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children, which he shall lead. So that's exactly what is happening today. Brother against brother, all this gang banging / cult violence, because these gangs ain't nothing but cults. Cults, like I said, cults of the day and night. They hear day and night. They hear all day, all night, all outside. And they eye is towards their brother. It's not even towards the enemy. Because if it was towards the enemy and they was constantly attacking the enemy, we would be able to drive these people off our land. But because of the spirit of confusion and because of other different curses that Yahweh has put on our people, our eye is not towards the enemy. It's towards our own people that look like us this day to day. Our people is robbing and killing and stealing from each other, and they look just like each other, And I call it self-destruction, because that's exactly what it is. Self-destruction. That's what it is. To destroy yourself. And when every day when a brother gets shot by another brother over drug deals going bad, or every day a brother is happen to be killed, calling himself trying to ride for his gang, trying to be down for his gang, or brothers that's being outed by untrustworthy brothers that side with the white man for their freedom. It's all about self-destruction. You destroying yourself. Stories that keep popping up on how Israel is the back of the nation, and without them, all this would crumble, all this will collapse. It's very true. And these elites and these people, and these evil white people, they depend on our destruction to get rich off of it. They smuggling all the way from smuggling drugs into the into our communities, keeping us docile, keeping us corrupted, keeping us destroyed, all the way to fake drive-bys, keeping them at war and conflict. When the gang members don't want to fight no more, they putting up peace treaties because they tired of it. You got them dressing up as the oppositions or the opposite people, killing them people and re-sparking the wars. To guns popping up in the middle of nowhere, just in the middle of nowhere in the hood, and our people finding it, and our people in their wickedness, taking the guns and using them on each other. And this is it's also a part of our brother, being evil to his own brother. You predatory towards your own kind. And these are the type of people that Yahweh is getting ready to remove, And this is go for the Negroes, Mexicans, and the Indians. You got self-hatred, you got racism towards one another, and y'all all have been through the same thing. All of them been through the same thing. They all one people, and they racist towards one another. You got people that's so racist. The Mexicans so racist. They so racist and so corrupted to the point to where they racist toward each other. If they baby come out dark skinned, they treating their child some kind of way. Because they rule on the being white is better. They believe in supremacy, and so they teach their kids that. You know, child come out with natural smooth melanin, and him having that light skin color make him think that he's over him, and he treating his child a certain kind of way because of his beliefs, and these beliefs aren't even real. These beliefs is delusionary, wicked beliefs. But you got people that believe in it, and they treat their kids a certain type of way because of how white people treat them, and their wickedness, man, and that's just one example. You got the Indians doing the same thing. They racism towards black people, they hatred towards them, and they all one and the same. Most of them are, at least. I done heard stories about them being mingled or being slightly replaced with foreign people. I done heard stories about all of that. But at the end of the day, for those of them that are a part of our people, they, like I said, it's just self-destruction. It says, and in her eye, it says the woman. Why? And it's both, in both. So Yahweh said, I did not come to bring peace, but I came to bring division. So it says, so that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eyes shall be evil toward his brother, and toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his child, which he shall leave. That's right. So it's a lot of brothers that's still under that curse, that's abandoning their kids when they born. They abandoning their children when they born. They abandoning their wife when they born. They abandoning their wife because they responsibilities is too great, and they would rather still be childish and stand to mature and grow up than to be a man and deal with the hardships. Because right now, it's hard. You're having kids in this day and age and all that. There ain't no money, especially during these times. Like I can understand if you had kids way in the 90s, early 90s and all that. But we closer we get to these catastrophes and these disasters happening, and people still having kids. Man, the more and more, and even back then in the 90s, man, we still, our people was going through a lot of hardship, and a lot of everything just wasn't right. So, people having kids, and they having to deal with all of that and all that money and all these problems, and they not thinking right. They not wondering what the consequences. They not wondering about the consequences. They just living in some romantic moment when they not knowing that things are about to get real for them. You got brothers like that in their wickedness, and then they abandon all of that, and they go, and yet again in all their wickedness, they go have another family. It's just wickedness. It says, so that he will not give to any of them the flesh of his children whom he shall eat, because he have nothing left him in the siege, and in the straitness wherewith the enemies shall distress thee in all thy gates. It says, the tender and delicate woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness. Her eye shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter. So it's a lot of conflict, a lot of infighting. The woman would never, at a point in time, our women would never abandon us. Our women would stand by our side during times of war. But because the pressure and the captivity was so powerful, the slavery was so powerful, it ended up breaking everything that we once knew. Ended up breaking our everything that we thought of, everything that we knew. We ended up forgetting about it, ended up breaking us. And we end up turning against each other in the midst of all that conflict, It says, and toward her young that cometh out from her between her feet, and toward her children which she shall bear, for she shall eat them for the want of all things secretly in the siege and the straitness, wherein thine enemy shall distress thee by the gates. Yep. And these gates is a representation of access. Access to money, access to food, access to water, access to a free home, access to comfortability, access to our richness. Everything that Yahweh gave us, he set gates upon. He set stumbling blocks upon for the things that we did. You know, and we cannot have any of this unless we go through the enemy to get it. You know, so and that poverty, falling from that rule, you know, the woman turn her rage onto her own children. That is true. Or lack of education, lack of discipline. The woman choose her life over her own children's life, and she don't even have the right to do that anymore. You don't have the right to be a child. You don't have a right. You don't have the right to be in comfortability. You know, you don't have that. You don't have that right. But they would still choose their lives over their kids' lives. That's why these kids is growing up to be monsters. They growing up to be killers. They growing up to be drug addicts and bums. You know, they're growing up to be enemies towards themselves. They becoming a lot more worse because the woman and the man are divided. They both divided, you know. And this is a part of the curses. This is a part of the hell that Yahweh Shem Yahushai was talking about in this Bible that came down on our people, you know. So it says, if thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in the book, that thou mayest fear this glorious and fearful name, Yahweh thy God, then Yahweh will make the plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed, even great plagues, and of long continuance, and sore sickness, and of long continuance. It's been a while. And moreover, he will bring upon thee the diseases of Egypt, which thou was afraid of, and thou shalt cleave unto thee. Also every sickness, every plague, which is not written in the book of this law, Yahweh will bring upon thee until thou be destroyed. And ye shall be left few in number, whereas the stars of heaven in the multitude, because thou wouldst not obey the voice of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. It says, and it shall come to pass that Yahweh will rejoice to do good and to multiply you. So we back, and it's a lot of us in this land. So Yahweh will rejoice over you to destroy you and bring you to naught. We've been through that in the past too. And you shall be plucked from off the land whereof thou goest to possess it. So it says, and Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the heaven unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. Among these nations thou shalt find no ease. That's what's happening right now. We coming to the end of it, but you know, this is what's happening. It says, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest, but Yahweh shall give thee there a trembling heart, and failing eyes, and sorrow of mind. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shall have none assurance of thy life. And I'm gonna get a part 2 on this and dig in more, but I gotta get going. And with that, calling Yahweh Shem Yahushai in the name of Yahushai. And yep, I'll see you on part 2.